All right, everybody, let's get kind of a setup going on the screen here. But what we have right here is our main project setup. Yours might be slightly different depending on how you're looking at it here. But sometimes if you change that, then what you'll find is okay. The view is slightly different. You can always kind of change the view that you have here. All up to you. I think either way you can get to the files, but the main things that we care about would be the Kotlin file, which is, funny enough, it's still under the Java folder. The other thing that we have been training you to do would be to take a look at the layout, and that's going to be the XML file. So there should be some sort of layout view somewhere. So if I click play on this, it's kind of an empty activity here. There's not much going on, so we shouldn't see much after it runs. It takes a couple of minutes, of course, to build the program and even more on our school computers. So I may pause the video and keep going. Okay, so nothing happening so far. Uh, so we can see that we have one element on our view. If you see the code, there's not much to the code right now either. Um, so essentially, if you do give something, if you add one of these widgets onto your XML file, as long as it has some sort of value attached to it, then it will be displayed on the screen. So in this case, if we're looking at this, let me get rid of this portion so we can actually see stuff. So you can see here that we added a property called text, and so because of that, we are going to see the actual value written on here. Now, we're trying to make tic-tac-toe, so we really need some sort of like 3 by 3 grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to work both in code, excuse me, code. I'm going to take away my device so that I can have more room real quick. We're going to do code view as well as the palette view. So this is kind of looking at it visually. By default, this is what we have. So this idea of a constraint layout. So what I want to do is I want to have a linear. I'm just going to work with the linear layout. And so what you will see is my palette works. Come on, palette. Um, these layouts right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 3 by 3 grid. And if you notice that we can have a horizontal linear layout as well as a vertical linear layout. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create 3 rows of horizontal linear layouts. And I'm going to lay those out linearly using the vertical linear layout. So if I drag that over there like that, what you see is in the code, oh, it adds these things. If you're familiar with kind of like HTML, these are kind of like your essentially headings. And so anything I put in here is going to go into that linear layout. So now if I put this in here, you can see that it's, within our little graphic thing here, it's been moved. So this linear layout, what I want it to do is to match the parent. So I want it to be as big as the parent. And so now it has occupied the entire thing. This text view, I don't need this anymore because we're gonna add different components on there, mainly images. So far, this is what we have. I don't even need to do these portions over here. When I click play or if I try to refresh this, you know, not gonna do much to our screen. Uh, now that we removed essentially everything that we had on there, so now we've got nothing. But what we want to focus on is the fact that we have this linear layout. So it turns out that now I want a horizontal layout to be over here, and I want 3 of them eventually. So I'm just going to drag one of these here. As you can see, if you see it visually go inside of that linear layout, it will put it inside of it. Again, if you're trying to figure out what's inside what, you want to look at the opening line. So this is kind of the opening line. The ending line always has the slash. So now you can see here you've got a linear layout that's inside of that other one. So I want there to be three eventually. So right now there's only one. This has a horizontal orientation. So if I were to add anything to this linear layout, it would add them in a row, not vertically. What I want to do with this one is I do want the width, right? We want a third up here. I want it to be the same width. However, the height, we can do something funny where I'm going to say it's 0. But what I really want to do is I want to set the weight so that when I add more of these, actually, I'm actually going to say that, oh, okay, if you add 3 of them and they all have a weight of 1 within this outer linear layout, then what you end up doing is subdividing your vertical linear layout into 3 linear layouts. Of course, those 3 linear layouts will be horizontal linear layouts. So now if I add 3 items in this one, I want to do the same thing. I want to say, hey, I want every element that I add here to occupy a third of the space. So for example, if I grab an image view and I put it there, I suppose we can do these avatars. So right now it's right there. Okay, looks kind of silly. Let me just decrease that. For this one, I want to do the same thing. I want to do, I want it to be the same height as that row. So for the height part, I'm going to do match parent. But you know what? For the width, I want it to be a third. So I'm going to do the same trick that I did with the linear layout, where I add a 0 width, but then I'm going to add a weight. Oops, I already had one here. My bad. I was like, why is it being weird? And so in theory, if I add 3 of these, it should make way for others. Right now, when there's only one element within that linear layout, it's going to occupy the entire thing because it is the only thing in there. If I now copy paste these twice, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the IDs here so that they're different components. You can see now that you have 2 image views that have equal weights. Okay, so that means it's going to split the width of this linear layout into half. If I copy paste again, it split it 3 times. Um, Now when we play it, let's see if the avatars are going to show up on the screens or not. I think it probably won't. Um, so we might have to actually add those later on. So now I actually have 3 though. Um, so now we're going to go into code. Let's load an image on there. Let me go pause and find an image of maybe US view or something. And let me come back. Okay, I found an image. So remember that when you're working with your images, what you want to do is drag them into the resource folder here and put them in the drawable section. You should just drag and drop it from File Explorer or Finder. From there, okay, let's go ahead and get to the views here because eventually we'll have to add anyway. We're going to create a reference to one of those image views. So I'll just call it like img1. And the type of this is an image view. And what we're going to do is we're going to find that resource. You can use a function, find view by ID. And then it's going to be r.id that image view 1. Now by default, we really don't have anything that says, hey, there's something called image view. So up here, this is where we want to add these imports. So we're going to do import. And all of these imports are widgets. So it's going to be an image view right here. So now it's gonna know that, oh, okay, you're trying to use something called image view. So we're gonna import that. From there, we know that we can change the picture. So uh, create a ref to the layout widget and then change the picture. We're gonna do img1 dot set. One of them is a resource, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to get it from the resource. So we're going to use capital R. This time around, we're going to get it from the drawable folder. And then, as long as it's a valid image, you should be able to see it pop up as an option. Okay, so now when we click play on this one, we should see one of our images show up on the screen, like so. So then, if we want three of them, of course, we are just going to repeat that process. Be careful when you're copy pasting though, right? So if you're gonna copy paste, do it slowly, um, so that you can keep track of what you're gonna change. Now instead of img1, I have img2. This is going to refer to image 2. It's the same type, so that middle portion of this line that says it's an image view, so that part doesn't change. What we're calling is going to change. This one is going to be image 2. So now if I say that both of these are going to be the claw, then I can just reuse the name of that resource, and now you have two of them. Okay, so at this point, a lot of us are kind of new to programming, so we're gonna have some pretty terrible code, and it's okay because for those of you who are here without a background, it's one of those things where it's, we just don't have time to teach you all these right now. So we're trying to show you the quickest way to get up and running. Once you do group projects, though, some of you may have to fall back to becoming like designers and planners, layout managers, because your group mates are just going to be better and faster at the coding to get things accomplished. So now we were able to finish the first row. If we go back to our template, our XML file, well, okay, what else can we do so that we can repeat the same process? But now I want it to be repeated for the middle one, right here. Well, you could remember, if you really kind of zoom out and consider what's here, right? You've got a linear layout that says, I want these three, I want them to be placed horizontally, so in a row, and each of them has a weight of 1, which means they occupy a third of the space, each equal weight. Now, I'm going to look at my second linear layout. Remember, the starting is here, and then the ending is you want to look for the linear layout keyword with that backslash. And so I know that I want to add something else right here. Well, turns out what I want to add there would be three other ones, three more image views. But this time I'm going to add different IDs. Like so, oops, like that. Okay. Too much code view, right? So now you can see that there's another set. That looks nice, properly formatted there. And in theory, you could do this again. So just be careful what you're pasting. So I'm going to copy all three. I want to make sure that I start from that image view over here to the very last one. For an image view, you can see that there's no really like this idea of an ending tag. So its ending is just these two characters. I'm going to copy this and paste it in between the two linear layout keywords. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I want to make sure they have unique names. 7, 8, 9. So as you can see, our layout has been updated. If we then go back to the main activity, I know that I can repeat these steps, but now I can repeat it for the other views. So if I do another one, so the comments maybe are gonna be good for the first couple ones, and then I can start condensing them, and so that I could keep my code a little bit more condensed. Again, it's gonna be pretty big no matter what. Okay, there's one. So we got the fourth image. Then this is gonna be five. So at this point, again, we're not really following best practices because some of us are still very much new to coding in general. Okay, we're gonna do that again. So the first couple of weeks, I want to emphasize just not being scared to do things. Second row. And sometimes that means coming up with really nasty code, which is fine. So here, this is gonna be 789. Why is my numlocks off? Ooh, actually, it was on. 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 9, and of course I have to go back here for that 8, and then we refresh it, we should have 3 of them on the screen. Excellent. So I'm going to stop this as it's going to be part 1, and I'm going to start the recording again for the next part where we're trying to get these to change images.